Yo, welcome gentle people, welcome back to the channel. Of course, it feels like it's been a while since I've done a little discussion when it comes down to Boruto. Feels like it. But anyway, given how chapter 64 ended, like personally, I know that a lot of you guys would want to talk about, Naruto heading back to the field, Naruto versus Code, Naruto potentially dying, all these things. But the fact of the matter is, due to Kawaki's dialogue in the flash forward, or in episode 1, chapter 1, whichever way you want to slice and dice it, Naruto isn't dying in this conflict with at all. And given how things are set up, depending on how things go with Boruto, depending if Sasuke shows up, and I guess just based on the performance of Code so far, I don't really see Naruto dying, obviously. But the point is, during my chapter 64 reaction review, your dad, if you're watching this, I believe you were the one that pointed this out, that on Twitter, persons were talking about the potential death of Shikamaru in this mission, and I thought that was actually an interesting idea to do a video discussion on with you guys. So here we are for the most part. Of course, before we get into it, definitely leave a like, comment. Let's kind of start the discussion on the way to chapter 65. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the death of Shikamaru, right? It's of course it's just food for thought. It's a discussion on our plates going forward for chapter 65 and beyond. And I don't think it's actually a bad idea. No, I know what you might be saying when it comes down to the Boruto manga. There hasn't been like a lot of how should I say, build up or like a character arc when it comes down to Shikamaru's character to ensure that if and when he does die, that it evokes a right emotional response from us as the audience. I know it's kind of like a tricky situation when it comes down to the Boruto manga, because again, when it comes down to the manga, it does feel like they're only managing to juggle only a certain amount of elements when it comes on to the narrative, when it comes on to the story. So when it comes on to building up certain things for certain characters, especially when it comes on to the previous gen, then it feels like a no-show when it comes on to that, because obviously when it comes on to Kiba, Tenten, Lee, Kakashi, Tsunade, all of these old generation characters, Orochimaru, you don't really see them in the manga, so it's kind of a very debatable topic to talk about the death of Shikamaru, given all of that context with the whole fact that there's only so much they're juggling with the manga, and there doesn't seem like there's enough time to really build up to give the audience that oomph, that emotional feeling for when X character dies. Granted, of course, Shikamaru is a long-time character from part 1. He had his arcs in part 1, part 2, and he's been doing a good job to make good on his development since part 1 and 2 here in the Boruto era. So there's that. But the interesting thing is, during the time of the Boruto side of the franchise, Kishimoto has expressed the fact that it's free reign when it comes down to killing the old characters, apparently, quote unquote. So yeah, that is a little bit of I guess weight towards this discussion of Shikamaru potentially dying in this fight. And the thing is, we gotta think about how that would affect the story. Granted, when it comes on to persons who have been watching Naruto from a long time now, of course that's going to definitely evoke a emotional response, but of course it does depend on how it's executed. But in terms of affecting the story, given that Chocho, Inojin, Shikadai, these are characters that actually appear from time to time within the Boruto manga, as opposed, at least compared to a lot of the the other persons in Boruto's class. The death of Shikamaru would actually give way to allow that team to get more spotlight and development, at least more push in the manga in a more natural way. So that could be like one benefit when you think about the death of Shikamaru and if it would really affect the story. And I mean just going forward, considering everything that really happened between Amado coming to the village and now, getting Shikadai's character pushed, I don't think would be a bad idea. And then just kind of balancing that between their team and Team 7, it could be food for thought, as I said. So there's that. But in a fight between Naruto, Boruto, Kawaki, Shikamaru going there to go up against Code, I mean anything can happen. Naruto showing up, Code more than likely has no reason to spare Naruto or ease off or anything right now, with the exception of probably Kawaki kind of bargain something. But I mean, just the idea of Shikamaru going with Naruto, it feels like it's a long time coming since we've seen like the two of them really going on like a mission like this. I mean, since what, part 1, Sasuke retrieval arc, and to see him go with Naruto right now, it just feels like anything can really and truly happen. And given that they're building up the whole, Naruto from Naruto lost Kurama, Naruto don't push yourself, they're treating this man like like he's an incompetent old man, you know what I mean? So to be honest, given how things are set, I could potentially see Shikamaru, pushing himself into situations. Maybe a sneak attack happens and he has to protect Naruto at the last moment when Ko is leaving, and it heavily injures him, causing him to bleed out or something of the sorts. Anything could happen at the last second when we least expect it. And I mean, just the thought of Shikamaru dying is, as I said, it's kind of 50-50 given how the Boruto manga is balancing all its elements. But the thing is, again, since Boruto essentially was supposed to be like a reboot of Naruto, right? And if we're going in the spirit of that, we're supposed to have like a big loss, a big sense of loss, and using that loss when it comes down to the characters as motivation for them to actually train and going into the time skip. And yeah, we did lose Kurama, and Sasuke did lose his Rinnegan, and Boruto's situation is worsening. Well, give or take. It kind of temporarily paused because of the the Byakugan suppressing pills from Amato, but we have another situation developing here going into chapter 65. But at the same time, between losing Kurama and all that, as I was saying, that was what, 10 months last year, when in terms of the Boruto manga, at least. Of course, anime is more recent, but yeah, that's more like last year. So it kind of feels like we're not really going into the time skip right now with any big sense of loss or motivation for the characters to really get that much better. Granted, obviously there's going to be some major turning point when it comes on to Boruto, what's going to happen to him, and probably Code and Ida and Daemon and whatever their long-term plans are, and who knows, maybe another Otsutsuki may show up. Something is going to set the stage for the characters to really push themselves into the time skip beyond this potential discussion of Shikamaru potentially dying and everything. But his death could definitely contribute to forming the foundation for the characters to actually just train and get better, and form that sense of loss, like kind of sense of despair, and spark that sense of hope within the despair for the characters to train going into the time skip. So there is pretty much that when it comes on to it. Of course, when it comes down to Shikamaru dying again, potentially speaking, given that my big thing, given again that the Boruto manga hasn't really allocated a lot of time to the previous gen, it's going to come down to execution. And with proper execution, unfortunately, that would potentially mean pushing the time skip even further along. So like the death of Shikamaru is something I think would have to be handled over the course of probably 2.5, 3 chapters even. There's going to have to be a lot of like callbacks to his development over the years, from part 1, from part 2, from the Sasuke retrieval mission to protecting the king, as they put it in part 2 in Shippuden. There's going to be a lot of callbacks to that for the most part. And my big thing, as I said, is the execution. So like thinking about how that would go down, definitely when it comes on to like just allocating enough time, it's gonna have to be like a 2-3 chapter kind of deal. So yeah, that's where it would have to really and truly go, because of course if you're only a Boruto only person who's only seen the Boruto side of things from the Naruto franchise, which would be ridiculous. Honestly, that would be wild to me. I don't know who. I don't think I've ever met such a person. But like, if you are I think enough time needs to be allocated to get you to feel more when it comes on to Shikamaru's potential death. So there is really and truly that. But as I said, even though it's an interesting topic to discuss, I don't think there's enough evidence to say it's going to happen right now, because one, of course, Naruto's and Shikamaru going up against well, they're going to the site, so you know, track down Boruto and Kawaki and bring them back and potentially take out Code. And you know, Kawaki's there. I highly doubt Konoha is not going to make Sasuke aware of what's going on, like try to reach out to him somehow, and then probably Sasuke shows up, and at that point the odds are really against Code at that point. So the real wild card in all of this is either see what happens with Boruto. Who knows, maybe Boruto is the one who kills Shikamaru at some point, who knows, that'd be wild. Or maybe like a sneak attack while Code is leaving on Naruto and Shikamaru jumps in the way or something, you know. So it's an interesting topic, but it's one I wanted to kind of spark and see what you guys think about it. Potentially the death of Shikamaru, how it would affect the story, and just going forward, and you know, potentially seeing how that would affect characters like groups like, you know, Shikadai, Inojin, and you know, the new Inoshika Tro, and see if, you know, as a result, probably they could get some more shine in the manga. So I know, as I said, this is just a discussion starter. I like the idea of the topic, so it is what it is. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. I think I've rambled on quite quite enough for this video. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Iron Man fight on Sunday's episode, so there's that. Anyway, Sanjay Uchiha, hope you guys are doing great, awesome sauce, and I'll see you in the next Boruto discussion.